Wait for it!
It's Sindri. Can you kill something that big?
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're proving size matters by counting down our picks for the 10 biggest enemies in the God of War series. For this list, we'll be looking at the largest enemies Kratos has ever taken down in the God of War series. What are some of the biggest video game enemies you've ever crossed paths with? Let us know down in the comments. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Hraezlyr God of War 3.
Hello, brother.
In a lot of ways, Kratos and Hraezlyr are one and the same, both cursed with godhood, both tricked by the gods into killing their loved ones, and both sons of Zeus himself. That's where many of the similarities end, however, as Hraezlyr believes Kratos to be the favorite of the half-brothers. Even though Kratos attempts to reason with Hraezlyr, the enormous champion of Hera refuses to listen, insisting Kratos is his 13th and final labor before he becomes the rightful God of War.
A fierce warrior, a killer made a hero, a man made a god. But this time, brother, this time I will destroy you.
As the battle ensues, and in an impressive display of strength, Hraezlyr completely upends the battlefield, almost sending Kratos tumbling off completely. However, after pinning Hraezlyr under the rubble, Kratos shows no mercy for his half-sibling and punches him through the floor, leaving him to rot in the sewers below. Pandora's Guardian, God of War. As one of the final trials on the way to claiming Pandora's box, the Guardian more than lives up to its name. A 20-foot-tall undead minotaur covered in nearly impenetrable armor, this beast serves as a formidable foe for Kratos in his quest for revenge. With constantly shifting attack patterns and devastating blows that can leave Kratos vulnerable for an uncomfortable amount of time, Pandora's Guardian would be a challenge even for the gods themselves. Only by attacking with equal ferocity to literally peel the armor from its shell is Kratos finally able to damage the zombified creature enough to deliver the final blow, using a well-placed shot from a conveniently placed ballista to the exposed flesh of the beast. Poseidon, God of War 3.
You challenge me, mortal? A god of Olympus?
Throughout the God of War series, Kratos is aided by many gods, Poseidon among them. But when it comes time to defend Olympus, no amount of favors will sway the god of the seas to Kratos' aid this time. Poseidon himself isn't necessarily one of the biggest bosses in the series, but the fabrication of water and sea life he surrounds himself with to halt Kratos and Gaia's progress up Mount Olympus is more than enough to qualify him a place on this list. Poseidon manages to get a few good blows in before Kratos and Gaia team up for a Titan punch, sending Kratos rocketing through the watery projection of Hippocampi and ripping Poseidon from the safety of his sea life construct to take on the god of the seas one-on-one. Once on land, Poseidon never stood a chance. The Kraken, God of War 2. In the immortal words of Liam Neeson,
Release the Kraken!
This is one of the few battles Kratos did not want to fight, instead originally madly declaring his anger to the gods after an emotional battle with the last Spartan. Kratos is so blinded by his rage he doesn't even notice the creature behind him until just before it attacks, and even then Kratos still demands to fight Zeus instead. It isn't until the rage of the Titans is awakened within him and his entire body is engulfed by the flames of his fury that the fight truly begins. After systematically dismantling the Kraken one tentacle at a time, the beast is finally ended with the pull of a lever as Kratos added a new bridge to the Kraken's dental plan. Hydra King, God of War. When your game introduces the basics of combat and explains the game's QuickTime events with an opening boss fight in which the boss quite literally fills the screen, you know things are only going to get ramped up from there. The Hydra's many heads attack Kratos numerous times throughout his attempts to reach the Hydra King's main head, which has the ability to heal the smaller ones, that Kratos has repeatedly driven away. Kratos finds the Hydra King devouring the captain and his key that Kratos is searching for, leaving the Hydra King's fate sealed.
Poseidon, save me.
After battling and pinning the other two heads, Kratos finally brings down the king himself and retrieves the key he was so desperately seeking. Too bad, it was only the key he was after.
Thank you! Thank the gods you came back for me!
I didn't come back for you.
Hraezlyr, Hraezlyr, the Dragon of the Mountain, God of War 2018. Dragons were hinted at in 2018's God of War, but were seen more as an extinct species rather than a looming threat. That is, until Kratos and Atreus are attacked as they make their way through the mountain pass. After a short encounter while climbing a mining shaft, the beast seems to have moved on, until the pair find Sindri trapped by the dragon, and Kratos and his boy are left with no choice but to intervene. This battle is the closest 2018's God of War gets to the boss battles of the franchise's original run, and is a welcome callback to the series' roots. With Kratos dodging lightning bolts and attempting to weaken the dragon with World Tree Sap, the battle finally culminates in Kratos victorious and by far one of his most badass moments in the entire series to date. Ares, God of War.
You are still just a mortal. Every bit as weak as the day you begged me to save your life.
The original God of War, and the one whose deal with a fallen Spartan brought down the entirety of Olympus itself, Ares is a constant looming threat throughout the first God of War. His enormous size can only be matched by Kratos using the power contained within Pandora's box to grant him equal size to the massive God of War. The one thing Ares lacks that Kratos is overflowing with is seething rage and revenge for Ares' trickery that led Kratos to kill his own wife and daughter in a misguided attempt by Ares to sever his ties to his former life and make him the ultimate warrior of the gods. Kratos satisfyingly ends the first God of War's reign of destruction before taking up the mantle himself.
The man who had defeated a god. They were driven forward by Kratos, the mortal who had become the new God of War.
Colossus of Rhodes, God of War 2. An absolute colossal colossus of catastrophic construction, the Colossus of Rhodes caused quite a cacophony of cruelty after this creation was callously brought to consciousness by a cowardly Zeus, concealed as an eagle to crush the cocky Kratos. The Colossus of Rhodes ends up being one of the only enemies Kratos seems unable to defeat on his own, accepting Zeus's quote-unquote help and draining his godly powers into the Blade of Olympus to blast a hole into the Colossus to finally bring it down from within. The Colossus manages to get in the final blow, however, and without his godly powers, the Ghost of Sparta would have most definitely been done for, had his rage not driven him to seek revenge against the traitor god Zeus and any and all who got in his way.
Humiliated before his Spartan army, Kratos dragged himself up from the dirt.
Aegeon the Hecatoncheires, God of War, Ascension. A prison for not only those who dare to cross the Furies, but a living prison for Aegeon the Hecatoncheires, the first to break a blood oath with Zeus himself. And while his punishment of being turned into the prison of the damned might seem a bit extreme, in Greek mythology, this is pretty commonplace for those who dare to cross the gods. As if his punishment wasn't severe enough already, Aegeon has the misfortune of getting caught in a battle between Kratos and the Fury Majera, who injects Aegeon, causing his many limbs to mutate and attack Kratos against his will. In the end, Kratos bringing down the Hecatoncheires was an accidental act of mercy, putting an end to Aegeon's endless torment at the hands of the gods. Kronos, God of War 3.
Kratos, your death will not be a gentle one.
They don't get much bigger than this. Introduced carrying Pandora's temple on his back in the original God of War, Kronos was only further punished by Zeus for Kratos' success in using Pandora's box to kill Ares.
I live in torment because of you. After you took the box from Pandora's temple, Zeus was consumed with fear.
After numerous attempts to squash Kratos like a bug, Kronos finally attempts to kill him by eating him whole and thus giving Kratos exactly the advantage he needed. Much like Gaia later in the game, Kratos fights this battle from inside out, using the Blade of Olympus to cut his way out of the Titan's belly before adding insult to injury by impaling Kronos with one of his own shackles to further incapacitate him. In the end, the mighty Titan pleaded for his life to no avail as the Spartan plunged the Blade of Olympus into his head, single-handedly killing one of the biggest enemies in the entire God of War series. Do you agree with our picks? Let us know down in the comments below. If you liked this video, there's more where that came from.